can stop me now. No one can stop me now.
Down for Squash, seeing if he can clear his way through as the bullets come flying. Tulika calls for the backup of his teammates, rotating further over so he's got room to try and pick him up later if possible. Doesn't peek off the back of the bait of the movement either, so Squash still holding. Frozen expires and it's all on Tulika for good. No chance of getting his teammates back, so worst case scenario has happened here. Even if either one of these solos get away and give up the final elim, you have crippled yourself coming into the opening game today, and this is it, Blank. They've got to roll with the punches now.
Yeah, Nima Galaxy also having a little peek in here with Ralph off in the distance alongside of his teammate. So this fight is not going to go well either way for both squads right now. Tulika is on the broadside, will be spotted almost immediately. This shotgun that Squash has found himself alongside with the SK-12 that he's currently holding on to, it is just stressful to deal with now for Tulika indeed. One shot will be enough to take him down unless he's at distance, but for the Mad Bulls, this is still sort of an important fight to win out on, right? You do not want to be losing your spot in Ruins. You don't want people to be feeling like you're in a prey, come towards that direct invite towards the PMGC, that global championship. So for anyone watching, all the other teams are already qualified. You know, Mad Bulls having to put on a bit of a performance here, a bit of a display. Goodbye. And with that, Tulika will move onwards. Ralph takes out the final player there from Inco. Difficult stuff ahead now for Tulika himself. Be moving forward here, Jackie.
Oh man, that is a rough way to start this off, Blank. You know, we're coming into it thinking that we have time to speculate, give a bit of a lay of the land, if you will, for our viewers at home. We got Jason's favourite, just what he ordered, you know, fresh from the oven there, the hot drop specialty. Mad Bulls just walking away with just the one man as well. The worst case scenario, really, Blank. And then a third party to steal that last elim. Ooh, wrap that up in a neat little package. If that isn't a little taster of the sort of shenanigans we're going to be seeing today, then I don't know what would be. You know, maybe like a beef stroganoff.
Yeah, I mean, for some of these teams, some of these squads, right, it was kind of interesting because we were sort of speculating, is Mad Bulls going to be the one to hot drop? In the end, they have to, but it's Inco who does engage that. And I think for Inco, maybe not the greatest thing to happen. I mean, we were talking about how, you know, here on Sandhawk, you do want to try and get as many points as possible, squeeze out as much as possible from this map, because you're only going to see one of it anyway. You don't want to go heavy on these games. Tixie all by his lonesome here. No one else to help him. He's got a DBS versus the three-man squad here of Quest.
Easy, straight around the corner. Easy two-pump, double barrel action. Straight into the face of Kitsune as well. Causes him to go bounding around like a very aggressive bunny rabbit. And he's put the foot down, Blank. At least hits onto a one. The sprint out as well. Basically just offering themselves up as sacrifice there. Those are some freebies for Gladiators. You get the response in as well for the situation. Get everyone back on their feet. You're going to be happy with that.
Yeah, you're going to be really, really pleased with the fact that Tixie's able to hold his own on this compound. It is typically where Tixie does play as well, over towards this eastern side, able for the rest of the team to get over towards him as well. And I think that is nice. That's a nice regroup coming through from Gladiators. A lot of times they've been fairly slow on that approach. If one player is all on his lonesome, backup doesn't come half as quick enough a lot of times. So for Tixie, he is thanking his teammates, clapping them on the back there. That is a very, very pleasing result for Gladiators. Not so much for Quest, currently on 13 points. points. It's not really looking too good for this team, even after the absolute mad plays we saw from Al Hadji yesterday. I don't know how much further Quest is going to be able to get into this tournament, but I think next year is going to be a really good year for Al Hadji, no matter what team he's on.
I think they've done well, at least in kind of winning the hearts of the fans a little bit as well, with the time we've seen from them on camera, the way they've come across in their interviews, and the resilience we saw, at least in regulation, back in Group Green, right? You know, for them to actually fight through and even still be in the tournament in a position where we can still be talking about them right now, Blank, at least for me, was impressive. It just felt like there was a little bit of room for them to get another step forward. It's a shame how some of the games have gone for Quest, especially yesterday. It was rough. It was raw. Misery back on screens here, though. Evos instantly aggressing, looking to try and build themselves a few points on this one. Misery got the early knock off with the UMP. Redface and Co now moving in to clear out the upper compound as well, and flushing their way through anyone that dares to peek into them.
Yeah, it's a nice little fight there from Pasija Evos versus N-Hyper, leaving them down to one player now. And I think for Pasija Evos, this is very well set up. Yesterday didn't look too great for Pasija Evos. I mean, they were doing extremely well over in our group stage, but kind of fell off just a little bit there towards our first day of play for Group Green. 21 points, though. It's not terrible. It's not ideal either, but it's good enough. Pasija Evos, it is just Misery now coming up against some of the players here from NASA. Xenox will open things up.
What more can he get done? Bullets down range early on. It's good high ground, good position to be in. They've got a great understanding of where exactly they could be potentially fought from. Bit of a move on the go here as well, as we see the rotation from Evos off the back of their cleanup. Now finding a bit of a safer compound to play in, but they've been startled, detected from across the road. We're lying in wait. It's Melise of all squads. I hit and miss yesterday, Blank. Honestly, to be fair with you, mate, I feel like we saw a truer test of them, at least in Group Green. You know, from what we saw yesterday, it felt like they were struggling a little bit. Even CEO later, there were times where it felt like this guy was a bit of a one-man army. I don't feel like he was as quick to the mark yesterday. I'm hoping, obviously, with a day of rest, you've come back in a little bit more fresh-faced today. Would like to see some improvements from them today.
Yeah, I mean, for the Turkish squad, it's just a little bit difficult for them at the moment. I mean, they've been making a lot of right moves. And I think for an edge team that likes to kind of read into opponents' movements around the map and cut the legs out from underneath them, they did a good job of it in terms of theory, right? In theory, where they were playing, it was all fantastic. Then they were going down to these engagements. They weren't always able to win it out very cleanly with a four-man squad going onwards and just clearing from there. And they ended up just losing games very early on. And this kind of the risk with playing edge a lot of times whilst you're holding out and guarding those edge sides is that if you get into an engagement there, you lose it, right? There's not much chance of getting very much further into the game. For other teams that like to leapfrog from edge and then send towards kind of a middling position between the center of the circle and the outer side of it, you have much more chance to get further into the game and maybe pick yourself some pretty consistent placement points off the back of it. And we had a really good conversation as well yesterday, or even this morning, actually, bloody hell, mixing up my time zones. It's all going so quickly right now, where we were talking about, you know, look, some of these teams yesterday just came out absolutely swinging, and I think in this format you have to, whereas other teams sort of got in their own heads a bit.
Yeah, that was one of the big focal points we were kind of sort of umming and ahhing over, about how you could see the difference of, let's say, a team like Influence Rage, who came out just playing their style, just absolutely giving it, right? Any opportunity they had to just swing on a fight, play confidently, going into an engagement, basically thinking, you know, we've already won this. They're just thinking about the points being in their pocket. You're going to have so much more of a better time of it than going into it giving so much respect to teams, overthinking these situations. And we've seen that change. A lot of our squads from Group Green, it feels like their play styles have kind of flip-flopped more so than anything compared to what we were seeing during that regular point. This is an interesting one, actually kind of ties into that. You can see here, Reject Tokyo at least getting a bit more confidence to fight and contest for center control. A little bit lucky there in terms of the draw of the circle, but it works out. You've got a compound, you're in a good good spot, and they're going to be pleased with this, mate. They'll be chuffed with that blank, because when they had center control, when they felt comfortable early in a compound, this is where we saw some of the better games from Reject, because honestly, they're great on defense. Good comms. It just felt like getting there was rough for them. They've been playing a lot of edge, and it hadn't been working out too well. I'd hope that would be a positive change. Bit of a fight potentially developing here as well. You've got the push up the hill. Focus is drawn from NASA towards the backside, but a few bullets whizzing on by. Room for a bit of a scrap here.
Yeah, I think for Galaxy as well, nicer. This is a case where potentially Liquid Galaxy will just think about just swinging wide of this, potentially trying to get in underneath towards the high net. I think Liquid Galaxy is a team that's very well known for some of their more smart rotations. A little bit of a scout there from Ralph. He's in very much danger now of taking a knock. Luckily, the vehicle is going at a strong 90 miles per hour. Hopefully goes zooming in towards where Reject is playing. Already Octa gets taken down here. They try and take control of one edge, but Reject has kept them in. Locks them into one location. Now the nades can start to come through. So some damage off the back.
Vampire at the gate! Gather your weapons!
Very, very low.
Readjust what positions they're playing from so they can support each other. It's easier. There is nades in play as well. Reject Tokyo normally very good on lining up those double nades. That could be something to come back towards. For now, we'll see what's happening up on the hillside as well. There's been a bit of commotion here. Teams have been making their presence known, and that high ground control is going to be worth its weight in gold the longer this one goes on. So pressure being applied there. Rotation coming in as well. You've got Alliance on the move as they start to make their way over. Dropping the smoke, so they've actually got some cover to work with. And you'd need it, because the Leafs are close by, and they're eagle-eyed, Blank. They've got eyes like a hawk.
Yeah, for you do, this is probably one of the toughest rotates currently happening on around the map, where they're sort of locked in between DX as well as Malice Esports. And DX has a fantastic control of the high ground. Something we saw a lot of them yesterday, like they're trying to very strong on the map, but also being really good at holding them down. Not necessarily always in compounds, just in certain areas of the map where they have that high ground control. They can play around a little bit of hard cover. So from there, Circle is very hard to hit that north side.
Vampire at the gate! Gather your weapons!
Esports, they can use that to their advantage. You do alliance, they can knock in flanks, and have a good feel goes over towards hard there. So very, very easier response from the alliance, but I don't think the worst
I'll be showing the light!
It's going to suffer in the next minute or so, I would say. Malice Esports on this side of the map. Now, Kissu does go down. Poser has a nade in hand. We'll send it over towards Nisa, but Malice Esports, again, just crumbling a lot during these days. Again, Nisa, 5 eliminations found so far. Really, really good stuff from them. I think this is interesting because it is a lot of these squads that we see a fair few times that just come into these games swinging. They tend to do well, and I would say that this is a very, very good and promising mark of the game going forward here, Jackie.
I'd agree with you, man. It feels like, actually, we're getting into a bit of a groove now, a bit of a stride for some of our teams. A lot more aggression displayed early game as well here with the culmination of the 2 groups we have in today's lobby for survival stage. Now, they were being pulled and pushed in multiple directions here. It felt like they weren't quite sure which fight they wanted to set their gaze on, but now they've been thrust into one. They have to try and survive, taking a ton of damage up against Evos. Good lay of the land from Link as well. Knows to look towards the distance. Can see just over the ridge side where his next opponent is coming from. They've got an understanding of where exactly he's playing towards, but with the bullets connecting, they're going to start to farm up these elims. Malice, meanwhile, are crashing down as well. This is Udo Alliance still trying trying to push over that hill. They've been doing this for quite some time, Blank, and maybe it's going to start to work out. Nice connection onto Levites. He's dropped and finished off for good, and they're still pushing in.
Yeah, Cluck's doing a really good job here. I actually like the thought process we saw from Udo Alliance. Unfortunately for them, DX followed them down on that south side, which is a really cool play from DX. You don't a lot of times see teams chasing on this situation. In the meantime, Reject desperately trying to hold on towards their central compound. They left it. They moved towards that north side, but they did face off versus FaZe. But they're currently still in a strong position. Gladiators, for them, this game is very, very important. They already started things off really well with a 4 limmer. It would be absolutely strange and weird circumstance that we see Gladiators get the majority of their points done on Sandhawk. As we know, they are horrid at this map. This is a map that they do not find a lot of success on, but already they're up to 7 eliminations. With 4 players alive, this is starting to be a really good run for them.
There's an itch in the back of my brain just reminding me of one of the Sandhawk games we saw from Gladiators quite some time ago, Blank. And I just remember it starting off in the same kind of way. When the pressure's on Gladiators, when it feels like, you know, the story's not going to happen, the crazy comeback towards the end is never going to be there. It feels like finally that Cinderella story won't be written. Something like this happens. We've seen it before on Sandhawk. I don't know what causes them to play like this sometimes, but they've certainly had their breakfast this morning, and they're coming out with some fibrous maneuvers, looking very solid in the moves they're making. 7 elims to the name, Blank. How much longevity have they got on this one? We'll keep our eyes on it because Gladiators need a good game, and the individuals are playing to prove that.
Yeah, they desperately do. Right now, facing off versus Duxan, not an easy team to go up against. MBE Sports, they lose Fistboy on a knock. That's to DX, who are doing a really good job over on this eastern side, just clearing their way through. Up to 3 eliminations now. Alter Ego also chiming in. Bit of a better rotate from them over towards this south side, able to take over that compound that Reject were holding on to. I think a lot of that comes off the back of the fact that Gladiator was able to get some really good pop shots between the windows, knock some of the players from Reject. Very much slow them down, bog them down. More nades sailing in from Gladiators, taking out the remainder now of Duxan. FaZe spots out some of the players from Gladiators, will take some pot shots towards them, over towards that western side. Chow gives his life for the rest of the team, but it's just Paragin now. With Lamborghini down, he is able to get in, but this is more of a survival game for them. Great circle here for the Gladiators. The last minute men, as usual, very much feels like back towards my university days where the deadline's looming and then suddenly I'm in the library for 24 hours.
That's how it always goes with Gladiators, man. I sympathize with a lot, Blank. I'm the same. Unless the deadline's there, it's not getting done. And that's the way they play. And honestly, it's working wonders for them right now. Again, you know, with every time we're looking over to them, they're starting to build up more elims. And like you're saying, zone-wise as well, they're in a good position to make a play off this. The one awkward encounter in the dead center as well is Reject Tokyo, now basically being the Reject duo, with all of FaZe in full force around them as well. So not really what you want to be. A bit of flat sharing going on, and that's illegal. It's called subletting, Blank. FaZe are going to clap back onto DX as well, finding a way to peek through the windows. An assault onto Paragin. That's an unlucky knock.
Yeah, I think right now, even though he's able to get Lamborghini up, it was kind of for nothing. This little high ground the Gladiators currently have control of was so fortuitous that they got the circle on this side. Coming off that high ground is very difficult, so they're trying to milk it for as much as they can here, stay on this top side. But it's MBE Sports coming in to try and challenge us for now. Gladiators need to be ready for this one. Kitsune luckily is in position as the DBS, only able to find one though, and that's not quite enough. The rest of the team instantly needs to improvise off the back of this. Sek and Mondo are down, so it's a decent start. The nades start pouring in, and it's a nice nade on the backside towards Fistboy. Just a Kaze left remaining, and Gladiators quickly clean them up there. Up to 12 eliminations now, Jackie. A fantastic start. Tixie's flying through the air. Matic is on the support.
Oh, mate. This is perfection put together so precisely from Gladiators right now. That was beautiful. The nade work to defend after the crash was on point, and then straight back into hungering for more elims. The peek down the hill, beautiful connection on the aim skill as well, and we get left with our final 4. A scrappy one at that as well, Blank. Alter Ego still alive. They were able to find what remained of Mad Bulls and shut them down, but they've now had the same done to them. Peek out from Sarah Biceps, and with a smooth right hook, he's wiped them off the face of the battleground. 3 squads remain.
Gladiators currently on the outside edge right now. It's FaZe with a very strong position. Alter Ego still need to work their way in as well, but they went out earlier on. Reject holding on. It's a good little game for them, but for the Gladiators, more points would be absolutely gorgeous for them here. If they could win out this game, they'll send themselves tumbling towards that top side of the lobby after just one match. So 20 points. Realistically, if they can get themselves 25 after this, they'll be very, very safe. It'll give them a buffer. They still will need to put in the work after the rest of the day, but they'll be in so much better stead. And taking that pressure off yourself this early on in the day is so, so nice.
Taking the pressure off themselves and applying it to Reject Tokyo. Problem is, though, it's not going to turn them into diamonds. It seems like they will instead just buckle under the pressure. Bit of a peek out here from FaZe, though, as Gladiators encroach further on the compound, closing in on them, using their utility to try and blow Lufa out of the equation. Nade after nade barreling through. Swing from FaZe on the stairway as well. And that connects. Meku left black and blue, down on his last legs now as they first onto him. Gladiators with only a duo remaining, Blank.
I think regardless of what happens there, I think Gladiators are fairly pleased with this result, right? Meku was always left behind to try and help the rest of the team get further up. Now it's Matic in a 1v3 scenario. It's going to be very difficult for him to pull this type of thing off. Goes for the pre-fire as the circle starts to push all these players in. Has an idea of where they're swinging. This rock is really nice to play around, but Onzen, he's on the prowl, and it will be found by the rest of the team. Mormon finishes off Matic. Regardless, FaZe picks himself a nice win from a very easy rotate on that north side, but for Gladiators, that could have been a lot more for them. Either way, I think it was around about 15 eliminations they finished that game with the 6 points on top of it. 21 points is just a very, very nice start for them. And you know what? Jason might have been right to bring them up at the start of the day.
It's crazy, isn't it? You know, we sit there, Jason brings out all his storylines that you think are never going to happen. And I think we hit the mark for 3 out of 3 of Jason predictions all in one game. So he's doing well today, Blank. He's doing well. Oh, look at the dance.
He's happy. He's pleased with that one. I mean, starting off the day with a win here for Mela is really, really nice for him. He's got his hot water bottle in hand as well, mate. Oh, yes. Taking the heat to the next level.
This is why FaZe are winning. No, they're bringing the heat in. They're warm. Exactly, Blank. That's madness. They got the moves inside and outside of the battleground, and they got the chicken dinner to boot as well. Can't turn your nose up at that one, but I think we do have to give a little bit of eyesight over towards Gladiators, looking at the stats in terms of what they got up to on that one as well. Yeah. That's a big game from them, right? They're actually fragging as well, Blank, which I think makes the world of difference in the sense of confidence. It's what we were talking about way back at the start of the game. At least now, having a high elim game, it should perk you up a little bit. You're not going to feel so somber throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the teamwork looked really, really good there from the Gladiators towards the end, and that's what you want to see overall. In the meantime, we're going to send you back over to the other team over on the desk.
The desk team, the best team here. Like FaZe could get their victory on the board here, starting things off strong for Group Red. But to be honest, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of working parts in this one that allowed quite a few other teams to have some decent results. You know, Max, I know you didn't want to talk about him at the start of the day, but I'm going to make you talk about him now. No. It's G Gladiators.
Okay, you know what? They got himself some wins. I can give you that much, Jason. I think Kalaris was talking about that. The eliminations kind of got fed to them in weird ways, especially that fight versus Quest. Alter Ego changing their drop location to the Eastern Island, and Mad Bulls fighting Inko, which means that their rotation path here, Jason, is completely free. Even if you rotate late, you can make it through Trifecta, you can get access to Bootcamp Hill, and off the back of that, they can just start blasting at so many other teams like Duxan, Alter Ego, and get 15 eliminations on the board. They needed those points here because they were in a tough spot before here, and they already doubled their points. They had 20 points before this match, and now extra 21. That is massive for Gladiators.
So it might be exactly what they need to get themselves in more of a safer position, considering this is their last day of play overall. But another team we have to dive into here is Reject in particular, because the position they had, we were watching a little bit of a disagreement between you and Max in terms of what Reject decided to do as his own tried to center up on FaZe.
So I think that they were trying to make the game-winning play, right? Like with some of their movements. They start in Trifecta, they had a 2-2, and they go to the compound, which in our region we see always as a focus point for some of these circles mid Sandhawk. Now, they realized Alter Ego's coming in behind them. They made a ridiculous blitz through. It was risky, but they actually got a lot of points from it, 8 points in total. That's by the by. Rejects here from this point on tries to leave this compound and go north towards FaZe. I think they already took one elimination off of FaZe, so they knew that they were weakened, or in a weakened state, but it was very slow, very unsuccessful trying to breach the position of FaZe here. So I like that Rejects was trying a winning move, but it materialized. At least they got high up in this game, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that the situation they were in with Alter Ego playing the road trifecta compound is you want to work with Alter Ego and stay in that compound for as long as possible to gatekeep other potential threats later on down the line. If you stay there with Alter Ego, you eliminate Nigma Galaxy, Deke Xavier, Duxan. You can also maybe eliminate some players of Gladiators as they get pushed down Bootcamp Hill, and off the back of that, you can transition through the rocks, maybe make over to FaZe. I think that was the better approach, but to be honest, the moment Deke Xavier died, right, Kalaris, they could play those rocks and survive super fine to the match. So it ended up working out, but I think there was maybe another option available. But that's the cool thing. There's so many ways to play it that you don't know which one might be the best at the end.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, like a symbiotic relationship in that compound for a little while. The thing I look at it is that they got third in this game, and would they have probably have got third if they'd have stayed in that compound as well? Yeah, probably. But would they have got first? Almost absolutely not. So I think that, you know, they were trying to go for it all, and obviously it didn't pan out.
Yeah, and again, trying to make those plays that are really important for them, considering Reject coming into this one from Group Green. So they only have, well, now 5 matches left to go. They have to get as many points as possible. They have to make sure that to make the right decisions, though, as we did look at a drop as well between Mad Bulls and Inko. And Mad Bulls, a team that it really doesn't matter for them, right? They're pretty much safe into the last chance. For Inko, though, at least them trying to scrape by as many points as possible. I think they got 3 with the eliminations. They're realizing, okay, well, this is not going to work out. Let's try to salvage with something, but they have to maybe look forward now to the next 5 matches.
Yeah, don't forget the best part of that fight here, Jason, is just Raouf coming like, sit down. just get rid of them right away.
That was a good bit.
That was a good bit right there. But yeah, it's a hot drop. It is normally Inko that would have to change that drop because Mad Bulls, as you touched upon, Kalaris, during that game, are already so comfortable. It is currently their fight to win currently in that position. If they win it, they clear it for the last chance. And Inko, they're just going to be maybe completely out of that position from the get-go. So yeah, Inko, cool. It's fair enough. There's only 1 of these maps per day. But you might want to try and think of avoiding those as much as possible because it can really impact your results over only 2 days worth of play. That is such a small amount of time that these hot drops can really impact your position.
Yeah, it would be even especially more huge if there was more than 1 Sandhawk per day, right? But there's very little interest in giving up your position when you've done as well as you did like yesterday as Mad Bulls.
One thing I do want to mention really quickly, because you said it while we were watching the game, and I kind of really liked the idea of it. We did see Alter Ego change the drop location, as was mentioned already on the desk here. They went up towards Cow. But then when the zone started to shift away from Corey, more centralized, and they were on the east side of Corey, you were talking about what do they do here in this position. And Clarence, I wanted you to bring that up just really quickly.
Yeah, again, they're just playing really risky PUBG Mobile. Like going for these wide rotates, going up against Quarry, which is a very difficult place to transition away from. They have to bomb it through to try and make something happen. If they'd have come in from the north, it might have just been an easier time. But yeah, they did all right. But it's, again, very risky PUBG Mobile here.
Yeah. High risk, potentially high reward for Alter Ego, who desperately need every single point they possibly can in our final 5 matches. And it's time to head into our second match of the day, which is our first Erangel of the day with Jackie and Blake.
Ooh, the first of the 3 Erangels. This is good. This is always my favorite Porsche and Blank because it feels like we start to get the more nuanced games, right? Where we can kind of expect the more unexpected. But this lobby's already looking kind of wild. So we'll see what we get, Blank. We'll see what we get. We're in for some treats.
Yeah, I think that the guys on the desk touch on a really important point here is that for some of these teams, you know, specifically what Kalaris was talking about really interested me in the sense that, you know, Reject, they go for the game-winning play at the end of the day. And I think you have to do that now. You really do have to go for these sort of things because honestly, for Group Green, we know that this is their last day of play to get in towards that survival stage, to not be in the bottom 8. And again, because you are the group that's playing the first 2 days in a row, you don't play the last day, you don't really know what marker you're aiming for, right? You don't know where that bullseye lies because no one is on that 16th position where it's just fixed, and you can think to yourself, we only need to get this amount of points to get in, so you have to push it to the max every single game. And I think that some teams are realizing, I would say too late at this point in time in Group Green, that they have to go for these game-winning moves. That had to come through yesterday. It absolutely had to come through yesterday. I think Mad Bulls took their fate into their own hands very quickly, as did Influence Rage, who have more than secured their position over towards the last chance phase. At this point, I think they have 77 points, something ridiculous at this point in time. So I think for some of these teams, maybe it's coming through too late. You need a little bit of luck today. You need to really hit your shots. You need to be making strong rotations and maybe, just maybe, able to bump those points up just enough. I think for Quest, that instant elimination at the start of the day there on Sandhawk versus a team that most people regard as not the greatest Sandhawk team will really knock their confidence in a big way. We know Quest made it in by the skin of their teeth, literally 1 point in Group Green to get towards that survival stage. I don't know if that sort of playstyle is going to cut it here, where a lot of teams, we're starting to cut down past the teams that, you know, didn't get past the first group stage. They're now in the survival stage now, where we have a lot of really, really strong teams. They won't just sit down and die like Tiamba did.
No, it's not going to be anywhere near as easy or as fine of a margin. I think that's the other part as well, is the fact that that was 1 point of difference. So I'd imagine it's going to be a little bit more of a stark contrast here. Hello, imagine
I would have cried.
That would have been huge, man. Full John Rambo action to start off the day, but not going to happen. They will try and instigate the fight, though, onto Melise as best as possible, whilst they know they're a little bit fragmented over in Alliance territory. So he's going to go breezing off, and Poser will join the rest of the squad, group up, and see what they can get done. But yeah, it is very... I don't know, it's quite a curious way to start off the day, really, in terms of some of the teams that we saw playing well. It was a bit more unexpected for me. After what we saw from Gladiators, I was kind of starting to shift into that, you know, you don't believe in the Gladiators camp. But as soon as it feels like you hit that point on the meter, that's when they bounce back. I think they do it just to, like, spite everyone. They do, man. They really want to kind of like rope you into the idea that it's not going to happen, and then, you know, they make all the fans book their tickets last minute to the finals. That's how that always goes. But we'll see if they can maintain pace, because it was a good game from them. But it's a key point that you hit on as well that I think is quite interesting, in the sense that the best they can do now is try and repeat that as much as possible today, because obviously they've left themselves with no other chances to accumulate points. So if you're leaving it up to another team to decide your fate, that's the rough part.
Losing Alva off the back as well. And I think this is something that's happened a few times now coming through from the boys on the squad. And I think that when you look at this, for Alter Ego, you just maybe drop trash around Mansion. Don't go for this 2-2 split between Lipovka as well as Mansion itself. It's not worth it. With the amount of teams that saw you yesterday get trounced by other squads, of course, NBE Sports is going to come down here and start to take some pot shots towards you. Mondo's coming in with the UAS, likely to clean this one up. The best Rosemary can do is send out some smokes, try and hit a couple of shots over with the DP, but I don't know, man.
No, this is looking pretty raw. It's like uncooked beef at this point blank. It is not what you want, mate. One by one, just getting finished off a little bit here for Alter Ego. They've had such a rough couple days in terms of their opening drops. And again, you know, it does really feel like everyone's sort of passed the word around that Alter Ego is the easier team to bully on these drops, blank. It just keeps happening.
Yeah. I mean, you make yourself an easy target, and teams will want those points off from you. And you don't make those adjustments, it's not going to go well in future. Max, man. Very astutely
Max
pointed.
update.
Max update, from the Max Mansion itself. You know, Nigma Galaxy usually dropping towards Pachinki. The Xavier over in Group Green refused to give up Pachinki whatsoever. They kept dropping there every single time, even on hot drops. But this time around, they drop over towards Severny. They give it up. This is the first time they've never dropped there. And I think for DXavier, this is actually a really, really important little tidbit to go off the top of, because I like this maneuver. You drop towards Pachinki versus Enigma Galaxy. You know this is a strong team, but right now you're currently third place, 53 points. Consistency can be afforded now. So a Severny drop for DXavier when it's open, completely reasonable, I would say, to go for this team. They know they can get further into the map. They know that they're strong holding in that mid game and then trying to take out teams towards that late game as well, with a little bit of sweeping from the high grounds. So I think this is a really good move from DXavier, and again kind of feeds into that storyline, as if you made those points happen in that first day, you have a lot of room to switch up tactics, to switch up strategies. You know, if this is a case that DXavier would be on like 15, 19 points, they might have considered dropping over towards Pachinki and just trying to push it to the limit down there versus Enigma Galaxy, trying to win out on that hot drop, and then going out from there, because those 4 eliminations would be very nice. And you can't really fear that fact of, what if we lose the hot drop? You just have to go and think to yourself, we're going to win this hot drop, we're going to move from there, we'll take that central position and give it some really good rotational paths into the late game. Everyone else in this lobby is just going to get trounced by us. You just have to think that you're a much larger team than you actually are.
Yeah, you've got to embody the stature, right? Make it, you know, look like it's hard for you to fit through doorways, that kind of stuff. Build the confidence up by making yourself feel bigger than you are. And that was what they did. I mean, even back in Group Green, right? It was kind of them versus Bra, was just like the battle of Pachinki every single time, Blank. And DX were willing to fight those down to the bitter end, you know, limping away with one player left if they needed to, or even conceding basically an entire run on one of our games of Erangel just to guarantee that drop. So I like the fact that they've at least moved away from that here and kind of thought, all right, we really did risk it, you know, back then. Now it's a little bit of a different kettle of fish. Let's not go for those sort of plays. So good to see the improvement there and the adjustment as well, to be willing to even give up your normal confident drop. Man, drop is a word that is synonymous with Alter Ego at the minute, though, as every time we look towards the Elim feed, it feels like it's Rosemary that's just taking bullets from miles away. It's so unfortunate for AE for the way these games have been going. But again, here, they're just exposed. You've got a line of sight. MBE just keep putting the pressure on and Blank.
Yeah, I think for Alter Ego at this point in time, it's just not looking good, right? And I think we said this multiple times at this point. There had to be a change going today. Kalaris gave some really good points. There's some very risky rotations. I think this one in particular was a risky drop as well. I think you can go for risky drops where they provide you a bit more of an idea of actually getting further into the game. But when you're dropping over towards Mansion and then split dropping in Lipovka as well, and you know that Procedure dropped towards Yasnaya, MBE Sports drop around this location as well, you're sort of playing with fire at that point in time. You know, there is just an opportunity to, look, give up on the scouting early on. We have a very good read on where most of these teams move in from, just from watching a lot of the other games that have happened throughout the group stage. Let's just go for a 4-man push over towards Lipovka. We'll split out. We'll try and sweep up towards the top side of Kameshki and move down from there. There's a lot of good little pit stops along the way on that side of the map. So for Alter Ego, again, a risky drop, which I don't think was particularly necessary here. DXavier, kind of expected from them. Move up towards northern side, take the high ground control, and play off the back of that one. So I like this from DXavier indeed. Mad Bulls also find themselves on the northern side of Yasnaya. Very nice little quick rotate from them, and a very hard shift over towards the eastern side, encompassing a lot of water in this one as well. So if teams want to get their feet wet, they certainly can if they want to live out this game a little bit longer. But for most teams, it's going to be either trying to sweep on this northern side or trying to hold towards some of these compounds on the edge. It's kind of a difficult position to play in. Some teams will be afforded some great spots early on if they were able to get here quick enough, but some teams on this outer edge will be struggling to find themselves a home.
Yeah, man, this is one that's setting up to potentially be a bit of a community swimming pool circle if it keeps up like this. About 40% water at the minute, so landmass really going to be important to lay claim to early. Try and set yourself up as quick as physically possible and don't leave it up to another squad to already claim all of the compounds. The mass migrations are coming through. You can see everyone starting to make their rotate down towards the zone, trying to get there as quick as physically possible. Bit of contact on some of the players that are playing slightly more defensive as well inside of the compounds, just listening out for where everyone's heading. Mad Bull stopping for a quick pit adjustment. Meanwhile, we've got the pull-up from Alliance down towards the compound of Rejects, and that nade was tasty, Blank. That was a 3-pointer straight onto the head of OCO.
Yeah, certainly painful. In the meantime, Inco is getting picked up by Enigma Galaxy. That's on the south side right now. Both teams were rotating in, so some pretty decent shots, I assume, were being made from inside the vehicle itself. Very much a turret going through right now from Enigma Galaxy, all in one vehicle. Slightly dangerous, but it's worked out for them so far, with Inco taking one knock and a flush off the back of that. In the meantime, Malise Esports situate themselves all the way over towards Lipovka, try and keep themselves as safe as possible. Alter Ego regroup on the coastal side towards the east with 3 players, but surrounded by an N-Hyper as well as the Mad Bulls, who have picked up what I think is one of my favorite positions within the circus, a really nice ridge side that you can play from over on this eastern edge, and keeps you very clear. You do have to worry about some of the teams on the eastern side. See right now, Enigma Galaxy just cannot find anywhere to stay. And this is what I'm talking about. If you come out on the edge here, you are going to be driving around a lot. And it's even more terrifying the fact they're in one vehicle, which is exactly why they try and get into a second, but not before Coops is pulled out of it. And Freak will just have to leave off the back of that.
Man, it's so unlucky. You see the heads-up play there, trying to dash the smoke can before the drop, so it blooms to at least give him some sort of cover. But unfortunately, UDO Alliance had such a good angle, such a good line of sight onto that position that they've basically just been gifted a freebie. And the situation there worsens even more for them. So you're still driving around looking for a parking spot in a never-ending garage. And there will never be a parking spot, Blank, because everyone is already set up with guns, using these parking spots as compounds to play in.
Yeah, and they won't be leaving anytime soon, so you're not getting that middle space. I'm sorry about that. In the meantime, we do get a circle that moves down towards that south side, in which case Reject and UDO Alliance's compounds become very, very valuable indeed. So for UDO Alliance, currently they do have the strongest spot, which is up on high. Reject slightly safer in terms of the fact that they can just sort of sit in this compound for a while. You know that UDO Alliance, with them being in this compound, they're not likely to move anytime soon, so they don't want to expend too many grenades just sending them down over towards Reject. So Reject have this outpost which is guarded by UDO Alliance. Eventually they are likely going to have to fight against one another, but both teams in this sort of mutual agreement at the moment.
Malise as well, hitting a nice shot across onto Freak and dropping the man. So the situation still just